You walked up three quarters of the main street, which was fixed and all nice, and then the other quarter of the street's dreadful instantly. So I'm pleased to see that one. So on the basis of that, we've got to the end of this. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, carried. Thank you very much for everybody involved in this. We've got a movement. I'm quite happy to move that Councillor Walker can alter to electronic attendance. Is that right? Is that what you wish? Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye to the carry. Righto. Good luck. Don't have a crash. I'm going to move to an underwrite for what I believed was called Auckland Events, but seems to still be Taki United. What is its name these days?
It is still Tātaki Auckland Unlimited. The events branding relates to the events themselves.
That in itself is a movement and a step forward. The Deputy Mayor wishes to move this and I am prepared to second it. There needs to be a long-term solution to this. I've been pretty direct with the government, as has industry. This gets us through the short term while we wait for the government, who are showing signs of weakening. We're now going to have a complete review of the sort of fiddling around here, so watch for the carefully selected words as they crumble. The other option is a general rates increase, which certainly won't get a vote from me. Mark and Ross, please address us on what exactly the details of this, which I understand looks like it shouldn't cost us anything in the short term, but in the long term. And I suppose I declare of an interest because the Mayor's careful, cautious budgeting is throwing some money into this.
Yep, so I'll try and be brief. So, as the Mayor has said, what is really needed here is a sustainable long-term solution for events funding. We don't have that yet, so we need some interim solutions to get us through. There's two parts to that. One is, funding the $7 million budget gap for this year's program, and you did that through the annual budget. But the other part of it is the pipeline, not the events happening this year, but it's the events that will happen in future years. And the nature of those events is you can't just wait until next year's budget or long-term plan for those things. The nature of these things is people will call up Tātaki Auckland Unlimited and say, we want to do an event in 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years time, but we need an answer now within a few weeks. We need to know, will the council commit funding for these events or not? And if we can't give those forward commitments, then events won't happen. People will go to other cities, particularly Australian cities. That is the reality of the way these things happen. So without a sustainable funding solution in place, Tātaki, that they don't have the funding, they don't have a committed funding stream that they can rely on to make those commitments. So effectively what this underwrite does is it's given a delegation to Tātaki to make commitments about future spend. So they're not spending the money now, there's no borrowing or spending right now, it's about spending money in the future, but making those commitments now. Otherwise, Auckland will miss out on events. So the way it works is an underwrite facility where Tātaki are basically given approval to commit up to $30 million of future spending with no more than $10 million in a year. And there's a process where we make sure that certain criteria are met and we keep things safe as part of the processes there. And then what will happen is through future budgets, the fundings will be sorted, hopefully before the money is spent. And an ideal solution would be to have the long-term solution in play, a bed night visitor levy or whatever the other solution might be. But failing that, we need to have a backup through the annual budget, and that could be reprioritising spend. It could be general rates increase if it comes to that, or it could be relooking at the accommodation provider targeted rate as a solution in the future, in the absence of a sustainable long-term solution. So those are all kind of the things we have to be worked through in the future. It does identify a 0.4% additional rates increase as the worst case scenario. So if the commitment is made, everything else fails, there's no other offsets, no other solution, then there could be debt and rate impacts. That is part of the risk, the financial risk of making these commitments and then not having that funding sorted out until later. But on the other hand, there's significant economic risks if we don't have an events pipeline. In the worst case scenario could be that, we have a midnight visitor levy introduced in a year or two, and there's a 2-year delay before any events occur because of that time lag. This is about an underwrite. It's about really a delegation to enable those future commitments to be made to ensure the pipeline can continue. But what is really needed is that long-term solution, and this is just an interim step to get us through. Happy to take any questions on the report.
Councillor Ferry has a question.
Kia ora. My question is probably more for you, Mayor, which is that we have had an announcement from the Prime Minister that he's looking at some kind of fund for major events. I guess, my response to that was just give us our midnight levy, thanks. Not that he asked me personally, but just that's what I thought. Is there a sense that might be how it plays out for us, that rather than central government going, okay, we're taking over the pipeline for major events for the whole country, for Auckland, there's the potential of a carve out that says, actually, you've got the capacity, you've got the systems, either we will give you the midnight levy or we will give you an Auckland portion of what they're looking at nationally. Have you got any sense of that yet? Has there been a conversation yet? Because to me, that seems the sensible way forward.
I think they've got them worked themselves into a bit of a corner there, and he is trying to manage recalcitrant ACT MPs, and he's digging himself out of it as best he can. It's 65% of National Party supporters want the midnight levy, which we are now decided we're going to call it the big events incentive, because it's a name that ACT can't say another tax, because it's not a tax. The person who will pay the most of that in Auckland is Prakesh Pandey, who has 15 hotels, and he's the person who's most behind it, and he will be happy to pay this so that he can fill up his 15 hotels. And even ACT supporters were at 63% behind this. And so they're just trying to find some wordsmithing to get themselves out of it. I'd say when this next election that you and I are involved in is over, they will be focusing on the one after. And those 65 and 63% figures will figure in their head. So this is a precaution. It allows us to carry on talking to the right people. Some form of thing will come out of here. We're also wandering into the realms of the city deal. And that's one of the things on that. And we consulted on it. And of course, government don't consult on anything at all, really. They just kind of do it. So there'll be an appropriate time in the dead of night when we get this with a bit of luck. Your husband probably got more idea how these things happen than I do.
Oh, well, I'll ask him when he gets home. But could I just follow up then with, so do we have, and this might be more a staff question, do we have some flexibility with this where if central government does come to the party in this financial year, we can, do we have a sense of what would be, say we got, I don't know, say we got 5 million from central government, and who would we refund first, I guess, is the question, or is that something we would have to come back and have a further discussion about, which is probably the answer to the question, actually, now that I think about it. But if I could get some confirmation, that would be great. Thank you. I just want to make sure we've got this future-proofed for hopefully that happy day. Thanks.
This is very much a live issue. Thank you very much for that question. And the next person is Councillor Turner.
Thank you. I'm very timely, Mr. Mayor. My clarification on this, the bed tax, or whatever we want to call it, well, it seems to be swirling around. It seems to be swirling around since I've sat here, and it says it's accepted, but it's not, and we can't get it across, and then we're going to wordsmith the name. And I always think that when we're wordsmithing the name, we're trying to, take people on a journey to somewhere they may be not wanting to go. I had this question posed to me directly at a meeting on Tuesday night. And is this, so the bed tax, which is only, if I'm correct, the proposal of something like that, which is, if I'm correct, only 40 million, but it seems to be central to all the talk we have about all the negotiations we're doing. Why? Why is that so critical for that one small issue?
Well, you've probably done deals yourself. You kind of knock off the easy ones, work into a corner, give them something or other you can trade off. And that's I think it's part of that.
What I would say
We are getting to be, which is what I set out right from the very start, to be treated as a third of New Zealand, not as Horowhenua, wherever that is.
So the other question is, which I need to pass on from the public, is it maybe is not the payment of such a thing, especially for those Airbnb type people who are actually bringing commerce to the local street almost. It's not just the payment that they're concerned about, but the paperwork compliancing and all those extra costs that will come with this. So I suppose what I'm saying here is I was looking at it to see where I could ask to divide out that particular issue and show my disappointment or abstain from that particular thing. But then again, the question was, it seems to be an integral part of what we're trying to propose. So what you're saying is it's our only bargaining chip. Is that what you're saying?
It's certainly one of them, but it's not so much a bargaining from us. It's the accommodation industry, including Airbnb, want this, and it's a result of that industry has been looking for something or other for a long time, and previous councils entered into a type of rate, which was the only thing they can do. And that was deeply unpopular because it wasn't able to wasn't related to turnover. You paid that on the basis of your land, even if nobody came to your B&B. This one here's come from that industry. All parties I made absolutely sure it wasn't just the flash hotels. It was the motels and the Airbnbs. They all fill up when the All Blacks play. They all fill up when there's a big thing, but not every ratepayer can afford to go to the All Blacks. And so this is what it's about. And it's very sensible. It's very hard to argue against it. And so I'm quite happy to keep pushing it along. And it seems to have the support of everybody in the room here.
Just a reminder, councillors as well, we're not debating the levy. We're talking about an underwrite facility as a stopgap measure.
Well, that's possibly true. But when you enter an underwrite, you want to know what are you underwriting.
Thank you. That's right. And thank you for that, Mr. CEO. But again, so my vote on this is not voting for that. It's just voting a stopgap measure while we decide where we're going. Correct? Okay. Thank you.
It may well never be used with an ounce of luck. Councillor Walker, you're actually here now. Okay, righto. Well, in that case, I'll speak to the Councillor Fletcher.
I guess I'm with others wanting to ensure that you have all of the delegations you need from us to be able to continue to work with the government to get around this challenge. And earlier in debate, we heard about the dowry we all brought to the table. Well, for those that weren't overly fond of the legacy Auckland City, the Auckland City in its dowry bought the Auckland Fashion Week, which it launched in 2000. It bought Diwali, it bought Pacifica, it bought a whole range of events that were loved by the whole region but funded by legacy Auckland City. And Auckland City had asked for a long time for exactly that. And it's perhaps what went wrong was the misguided targeted accommodation rate that has left the sour taste. So it's always much harder to fix something when you stuff it up in the first place. And I'm in favour of this, I support this, but what I want to know is that you have the confidence that you have all the delegations you need along to reinforce this. As the mayor of this council, and whether there is anything else that you would like from us to support it.
Indeed, you have resolved in support of this direction. You have signed off a position, a proposal, if you like, and a scoping of the regional deal in advance of the negotiation that contains reference to this. So between the delegation you've given me and what the mayor has by way of a policy position for ourselves collectively, we are in a good position to have that discussion and keep the boat heading in the right direction.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Chair. I notice we have two members from Tautaki Auckland Events online, and my question is to you, Annie, probably, or Justine. Why is this so important to major events for this city? Why do we need a conditional underwriting facility?
Well, the current position we're in is we're unable to commit funding for significant major events in the coming sort of 3 to 5 years, which include 2 Lions tours, women's and men's in 27 and 29, and a T20 Cricket World Cup in 2028. So each of those 3, as well as, you know, we are, as has been mentioned in the media, we are obviously very keen to host a State of Origin match. So without funds, and significant funds are required, we cannot compete. And our fear is that many of these events are going to pick other regions, and specifically Christchurch, as an option because of the fantastic new infrastructure that they've built, which will launch and open next year. So that is the challenge that we face.
Thank you, Annie. And supplementary, approximately how long does it take, or how much work is involved in pitching for some of these big events? They're not just, you know, within a year, are they? They are years.
No. So World Choir Games is a great example. We started the work on World Choir Games in 2020, and they visited in 2024. So it was a long lead process and a lot of work in between. So that can be the nature of how long these events take.
Kia ora, thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to speak if you want me to go straight into a speaking slot.
Any debate now?
Okay, I think we've wandered into debate now, so please retire, or rather move backwards possibly. The debate, Deputy Mayor Simpson.
Thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I'm a huge fan of this, and I'm very happy to move it. Major events are essential to vibrant cities. They assist both economic growth and visitor attraction, and absolutely put us on the world stage. I believe it's essential that our events agency, Tautaki, has the funding tools to pitch for events that this city absolutely needs to be globally competitive. But I also think it's important for them to be able to pitch for events that are actually Auckland perspective, because we are going to have competition down the island, all right? We're a third of this country, and it's really important for us to get these events. So I'm a huge fan of the recommendations ahead of us. I think we absolutely need to nail this. It is supported by the industry. If we do not agree to this, our city will miss out on major opportunities for economic growth. And there's one thing this city needs, it's economic growth. So I urge you to support these recommendations. Thank you.
Councillor Hills, then Councillor Henderson, please.
Thanks, Mayor. And to echo the Deputy Mayor, major events are not a nice to have. They are absolutely needed for the city. They bring people into the centre and all around the suburbs too. They make the city safer, more people, more vibrancy. You only had to be there for the World Choir Games. or Pink, or the Women's FIFA World Cup, which just brought so many people out, a festival atmosphere. The restaurants were full, the bars were full. This Monday night, actually, I went to the opening of Fashion Week with the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, and it was fantastic to see so many people out on a Monday night, kind of with the amazing skies lit up, with our maunga in the background, showcasing the city. If we don't have these types of events, and I've caught up with many promoters in the last year or so, they said people want to come here, but the Australian cities are outbidding us, and it makes not a lot of financial sense if we're not putting the same or close to the same money in. I don't understand why the government is pushing back on the visitor night levy, and I do think they need to be putting the funding in here. MB trusted us a few years ago, trusted Tātaki to take up the fund. I would hate to see the government waste time setting up their own mechanisms and their own processes to bid for Auckland events. So I hope if they are thinking of putting funding in, they relinquish the trust to us, because that is what Auckland, we have the experts, the amazing experts within Tātaki Auckland Limited or Auckland Events who will be doing this work. But I think you think about growing up in this city, you know, the America's Cup or the Lions Tour or the All Blacks games, that's the memories people have of the city and being celebrated overseas, and we need more of that. If we don't have it, a lot of industries will die and a lot more young people will head overseas. But I just don't understand why the government won't sort of tip in similar money that the state governments are doing. But anyway, this is a good stopgap to enable us to really go out there and scout for events and make sure the certainty is there, because we've already lost a couple. We've had to pull out of things that could have been amazing for the city, and we just can't let that happen again, because if the runway disappears and the events don't come in the next 10 years, we're in big trouble. So I think this is a really good step, and thank you for everyone who's put it together.
We've got Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, look, hugely in favour of it, and probably don't need to go at length about it, but the previous two speakers have covered it really well, and just thanks and acknowledgements to them. Yeah, look, I don't know why the bed night levy is such an anathema to the government, especially, and as I've said around this table before, if you give Auckland Council the power to handle it, to levy it, and to set the rates and all those kind of things, we also carry the political cost or benefit as well. So government saying, oh, we don't want another tax or something like that, it makes no sense to me at all. So maybe they should act on it. But in the meantime, I think this is a fantastic initiative, and great to hear about the origin. And may I just say, for the record, go New South Wales.
What are you after the Sydney vote? Kieran Leone.
Thank you. Look, no, I agree with everyone's comments. I'll be supporting this. I just, I am concerned about the fact, though, that we were, just a few months ago, or feels like it wasn't that long ago, that this was on the table, and that we weren't sure whether we were going to be able to fill this hole. And look, I'm glad that we actually have come up with an alternative, because if we didn't, we know we'd be losing so much for our city. And look, this is Auckland. We're the biggest city in the country. We are supposed to be the economic powerhouse of the whole country, with our 38% GDP. And what have we got back from government in the last 3 years? Well, we haven't been able to get that much. Hopefully when the regional deal does come back to us, hopefully before the end of the term, we've got something clear about the central government's commitment to the fact that we are the economic powerhouse of this country, and should be shown that with the dollars that come back to our city. So, look, I think it's a great, it's a necessary move from council, but concerning that it was, very much up in the air last year as to how we were going to be able to address this. So well done that we're going to be able to do it in the interim, but we need to put that pressure on government. Thank you.
Well done. Councillor Darby, please.
Thanks, Mayor. There's been a lot of discussion about events and how events can extract better value for or contribute to a better economy in Auckland, but I don't think that this is any silver bullet to the malaise of the Auckland economy and its contribution to the national economy. I think that's a much bigger discussion. There's been quite a lot of media about the bed tax recently and how that's going to be, the big saviour. How small is the mind if you think that's going to create, the future-facing economy that Auckland needs to start discussing. That's another story, and that's a big conversation for the next council and government. But on this one, it's interesting, I hear, and I do support Tātaki in this endeavour, but my other caution is I'm hearing a lot of the traditional sports, the Lions Tour, All Blacks matches and State of Origin and hoo-ha around that one and T20 cricket, that's all great. But think of the young people who are exiting our city at the moment. Think of them. I would actually love us and Tātaki to start thinking about this event's budget or facility, to start looking and targeting those that want a culturally rich Auckland. They want to go to the events that actually hold them here. They want to say to themselves, well, yeah, I went to this one and that one, and it made the difference between me heading off to Melbourne or Brisbane or somewhere like that. Because I actually hear a lot of our young people not seeing Auckland as their home because they don't see that the cultural immersion like there used to be here. It's been lost. They're not getting it. So, in short, my first caution is it's no antidote to the revival of the Auckland economy. And second is let's think about the generations that are not represented around this table. Start thinking about the young people who we want to have stay in Auckland and look at how events might contribute to them staying.
Thank you for that endorsement for the Technical Alliance. Ken Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A little bit like the councillor before me, we talk about stimulating Auckland and the city with big events, which are not our culture, which come in from overseas themselves. A huge portion, the majority of our tourism that supports our hospitality industry in this country is local. And out in the, as you get in the outer reaches of the Auckland area, away from the CBDs, it is local activities like the yearly fishing competition or some farm day or all the different sort of things which are more Kiwi that bring the tourists around. So I want to make sure that we're not just, we sat here before talking about rates and the cost on everybody. Who are we actually taxing for this? And who's actually getting the result from it? I agree, it's a big subject that I haven't been able to rationalise the size of the subject compared to the size of that kind of minutiae of our fix we keep talking about. But Mr. Mayor, I'll support this because I want to make sure you have the ability to go ahead with your negotiations like you are good at doing. But as it's an interim measure, I'm certainly wanting to let people know here I'm not fully sold on what may be offered to us in the future. So I'll support it reluctantly today. Thank you.
Just to answer that in a way is that all the accommodation industry is involved here, including the Airbnbs who fill up when there's a surf contest at PR or when there's a fishing contest on the coast. And the discussion I've had with the accommodation industry, who are the ones that are putting this in, is that they will have an input with Tātaki into what this money gets used for. And so that so that they will have the ability to say, well, don't forget fishing contests. It's not all just opera or footy. So good point, but that's the breadth of it. And I'm sure the accommodation industry in the regions will make sure that they are getting a return for the investment. Councillor Filipino from the regions.
Kia ora here, mana. Look, I will be supporting it now, and I look forward to see whether there's any impact on rates and any impact on the financial situation we find ourselves. Because previously there was a lot of concerns about that, so that's what I really look forward to. But I totally agree that the events will bring some money back to Auckland, as the Auckland Future Fund has. Kia ora.
Thank you for that, Councillor Filipino. Councillor Fletcher, please.
Thank you. In throwing my support behind this, I think that we need to think about both our hearts and our heads. There is a very strong economic impetus in terms of trying to bid and get these events that we know we can sequence and we know that we've got coming, and particularly with the convention centre coming online and everything else. But if I go back to Legacy Auckland City and why it made such an investment in major events that this council has inherited, it was about the jobs that it created and the prosperity, but it was based on the theme of Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau, first city of the Pacific. It was based on the premise of bringing events together that would unite us in a way perhaps that Councillor Darby has touched on. We all need a sense of unity. We do need a sense of belonging. And the venues that council invested in were all part of actually inspiring our young people and getting them excited about being Aucklanders and excited about the opportunities that existed here. So I hope that we can put our faith in Tautaki Auckland. It probably rankles with me, given how passionately I felt about this issue, that we stuffed it up so badly with the targeted accommodation rate. And I can imagine that the government will sit there and be thinking about judicial reviews and everything else that was associated with that. But I think that the Mayor has tried to recalibrate, he has tried to present it differently, but at its heart, for me, will be the sense of being really proud to be an Aucklander, because that will be the compelling competitive edge that you can sell internationally, that people will want to come to Auckland, not just because we've got the cheapest accommodation, not just because we've finally sorted our congestion problems out and we can move people around with accessibility. It will be because of those unique features, our Hauraki Gulf, the Manukau Harbour, the volcanic cones, the manga, it will be about our people. And we haven't sold that particularly well lately. And I hope that we can bring this heart and head together and persuade the government that we really need some form, let's not put a name on it, but some form of enablement for this to occur. So I hope you're successful.
Okay, that's it. I'm going to put this motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. So we look forward to an exciting Auckland over the next few years. Try and hold your excitement for item 13, the disposal of property. I'm reliably informed from Cullen that he